Hello, good morning, everyone. All of you can hear me. Please write VIC in the chat if all of you can hear me. Right? VIC, great, great. So it's a Sunday morning, and first of all, how great your January has been so far. The first month of the year is almost completed. Right? We are at the brink of it. So how has your for 2020 been initially and this first month of January? Please tell us in the chat. Great, great. Chandra says great. Nikhil says great. Perfect. It's really good to hear that. Okay, Shitij says hectic. Arshad, great. So perfect. Right. So with this, we will start with today's session, right? And I will give you a brief of what will be happening over this duration of Product Management Speaker Summit 2022, right? And how we will progress in it and what will be the benefit for all of you, right? So a few time back, all of you must have repeat nominations or registration link for the Speaker Summit. So our goal is to bring forward the talent we have at the PM community here at Insaid in front of everyone, right? And we want everyone to highlight and showcase their learnings, their experiences, and their wisdoms that they've gained during the period of this course and throughout their working life, right? So what we will be organizing is we will be organizing speaker sessions every month with your batchmates, your PM community peers, right? And we hope you are really looking forward for this, right? Now, if we begin with today's session, so we have Mr. Bismoy Das with us. He has over 13 plus years of experience. And right now he is a senior business analyst in TCS, right? Bismoy has also spent some time in Sydney, Australia, right? And he has completed his post-graduation from IIT Ghaziabad, right? So without further ado, I would hand over the stage to Bismoy, and I would request him to quickly give a brief introduction if I have missed out on anything, and then quickly start with the session. So Bismoy, all yours.
Gaurav, I'm not able to start the video.
Can you try now?
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Gaurav, for introducing me. So just to give a brief introduction to everyone, myself, Bismoy, and I'm having like total 13 plus year of experience in IT. And currently I'm working as a business analyst in TC. And especially I've been working in banking domain. So overall, my entire experience has been in banking domain. And I am both PSM and PSPO certified, and have been working in Agile environment for the last 7 years. So today, thanks a lot for Insaid for providing this opportunity to present a topic which is close to my heart. So the topic which I wanted to present today is intervening Agile, Lean, Design Thinking, and Devops. So we might have heard about all this concept in nowadays, like the framework or the new methodologies like Agile, Lean, Design Thinking, and Devops. So these are basically different methodology or philosophy, which we can say. But how can we interlink everything together and create a software deliverable? This is something that I will try to answer today. So let us get started. So the agenda for today session is I will be providing an Agile overview and also a Scrum framework. And the next thing that is in the pipeline is a Lean and Kanban. And also we'll discussing about a framework which I have worked and something that I have learned, that is Scrumban. And apart from that, new philosophy like a design thinking and DevOps, I will try to cover. And then implementing DevOps in Agile environment. So how can we implement DevOps in Agile environment? And finally, I'll wrap up the session with like connecting all these things together. And we'll have a QA question and answer round like in the last 15 minutes. But I will, of course, like if you have any doubts or if you have any queries or you want to add in anything, like you're most welcome to add in between, because even I am also learning and I am also learning every day and increasing my knowledge base. So please feel welcome to add anything in between. So moving ahead. Okay, so what is Agile? When it comes to Agile, like different people have different interpretation or different thinking. Like what is Agile? Some say Agile is a methodology. Some people refer Agile as a framework. So there are different variation. Even if you see the internet also, like there are different answer given for Agile. Well, for me, Agile is mostly a mindset change. It is a culture of mindset change, which having a set of values and principle. So as you can see in the right hand side, the Agile umbrella diagram. So this is a umbrella diagram which encompasses all the framework and practices which a Agile should have. So Agile basically has a set of frameworks and a lot of practices. So some of the like important like some of the pivotal frameworks are like Scrum, Kanban, XP, Lean Startup. And for like scaling Agile, like if you want to expand the Agile to a multiple teams, we use frameworks like Safe, Lace, and Nexus. Also, Agile is set of practices like we play planning poker, we have sprint burn down, daily stand up, sprint planning, and release burn down chart. So a lot of practices also encompasses the entire Agile mindset. So Agile was developed like to solve a complex and an unknown problem. So basically, our waterfall was being driven in the last century, and like it was been used across all the industry. But slowly, people understand that nowadays there are a lot of complex problem that is coming up. A complex problem because of like environmental changes, because of technology change, or it can be because of new regulation that has come into picture. Like every country has its new regulation that is coming, and that is creating a whole new set of complex and unknown problem. So to solve this complex and unknown problem, Agile is a best approach with the software. Not only the IT company using, but nowadays even the non-IT sectors like HR, finance, they're also using Agile in their day-to-day life. So Agile, everything is time boxed. So when I say time box, what is the importance of being time boxed? Well, suppose in water, so like in Agile, if you elongate all the meeting, because Agile has a set of meetings, which is really important and which is prescribed by the Agile to follow those meetings or events. But if you expand those meeting and if it goes on like elongated, the whole concept of Agile will be lost. So that's why everything in Agile is time boxed, so that we can have a fruitful meeting and we can get a feedback immediately, which can be applied upon. And as I told, Agile is using iterative approach for software development, and here software is developed incrementally from start to end. Unless like in the waterfall approach, where we use the big bang approach to deliver a project, Agile supports the iterative and incremental approach of delivering project. So moving ahead. So a lot of people like ask like why we want to migrate to Agile. Like even in a lot of companies where like waterfall has been very successful and it is going on for like a lot of years. Suddenly the CEOs and the CFO will be asking like why we want to migrate from the one which is working like waterfall to Agile. So just because it is like a new terminology that has come to market, that doesn't mean that everybody should move to Agile. So let us understand what is the difference between waterfall and Agile to cover that question. So waterfall, we have all this like phases of software development, like requirement, design, development, test, and deployment. Everything comes in a phase wise. So it is like linear cycle, like one phase completes, then only if a requirement phase complete, then only the design phase will start. And once the design, everything is signed off, then only the development will work. start. So it is like phase wise. So we don't have any concept of iteration or like going back and taking the feedback. But in Agile, everything is like it is like a iteration or a what you call sprint. So within a sprint, we can encompass all these phases so that we can take a feedback from the previous thing and from the next thing and can apply upon. So the main concept of applying Agile is like we can do inspect and adapt, which was missing in waterfall projects. So basically, a waterfall project is more like we can use waterfall project mostly for the highly regulated project, like government project, where the requirement doesn't change and it is like very stable. So in that project, like waterfall might be the best approach. But when it comes to like a complex project, like complex IT project where the requirement keep on changing because of market dynamics, because of technology change, and because of a new regulation that has came, then Agile is the best approach, because Agile will help us like in developing like to cover those complex unknown problems. So as you can see here, like in Agile, we separate the project into sprints, whereas waterfall project, we have like phases, like one phase after another. And as I told, Agile is more for complex project, complex unknown problems project, while waterfall is best suitable for like stable project, where we have the stable requirement and requirement keep on is constant throughout the like entire life cycle. So with that, let us move ahead. So let me discuss one of the framework which I've been working for a long time. So Scrum is one of the most popular framework when it comes to Agile implementation. So around 70% of the company uses Scrum framework for implementation of Agile. So Scrum is a lightweight framework as defined by the Scrum guide, and it is used for solving complex and unknown problems. So originally the word Scrum has been originated from a rugby sport, and mostly it is now widely used in the project development industry. Also, it has been used in non-IT industries. Also, Scrum is getting used. So Scrum also supports the iterative and incremental Agile software development, like how it happens in the Agile way. So moving ahead with more about Scrum. So in Scrum, we had like, so we defined 3 roles in Scrum. So there are like product owner, Scrum master, and the development team. So the product owner is the person who like provides the requirement. So he, instead of in waterfall where we have to interact with a lot of stakeholders, a lot of different stakeholders like SMEs or like a lot of architect, everything, and get the requirement. In Scrum, product owner is the de facto the single person who has the customer vision and has the customer requirement. So basically, the development team needs to interact with this product owner to get all the requirement. So the product owner is the final authority of the entire product. So what I can say. Then the next important role is the Scrum Master. So Scrum Master is a person who like manages the entire thing, like an entire Scrum framework. So in case like a new team has come to the like new team is formed for a Scrum team, like a Scrum Master responsibility is to educate them, teach them about the Scrum framework, and also like give guidance like in terms of like what are the what needs to be done and how the software can be developed in a Scrum framework. So Scrum Master can work as a teacher, as a mentor, and also as a coach whenever required. So another important responsibility of the Scrum Master is to like remove the roadblocks. So many times like the Scrum team will be having a lot of roadblocks for which they will not able to continue their work. So it is the responsibility like for the Scrum Master to understand the roadblock and to remove them. And also the Scrum Master should make the Scrum team self-sufficient, so that in the future, like anything that Scrum team can able to remove the roadblock, they can also able to remove by themselves. So the whole point of Scrum of a Scrum Master to make the team self-sufficient, so that they can able to deliver the software product as visioned earlier. And finally, the development team. Well, the development team is like is a combination of developers and also testers. It can also have the BA also. So based on the team requirement. So it's a combination of a lot of team, and even architect can be also there, which can be a shared resource, or architect can also work in as a development team. So the whole point of development team is to take the requirement from the like product owner and deliver and create the product and deliver it to the for production. So these are the three important roles that we have in the Scrum. And then we have 5 events or ceremonies in Scrum. So the first event, which is the most important event, is product backlog refinement. So before any user story is created, or like any story is created, we have to have a product backlog refinement, where we discuss about the story, like a business analyst or a product owner has to discuss about the story and has to refine it further. So normally a product owner like discuss the story with the entire team and understand like whether they are comfortable with the story, or it needs to be breakdown further, or the story is like a redundant. So all this decision needs to be taken in the product backlog refinement, and based on that the story can be like divided further, or we can call or we can combine multiple story into a single story. So all this thing needs to be discussed in the product backlog refinement. And the next thing is next event is sprint planning. So once we got all the user story ready for the sprint, we start the sprint planning phase. And sprint planning is for like suppose it's like a sprint can be of like 1 week to 4 week. So normally the sprint timing like a normal sprint will be like 2 weeks, but it can vary from 1 week to 4 week. And to like suppose it's a 2-week sprint, then we have to discuss like we have to do a sprint planning to like discuss like what user story we can take into the sprint and what will the vision of the sprint. So all these things will be discussed in the sprint planning, like based on the prioritized backlog which has been created in the product backlog refinement phase, which are the story that can be picked, and we can assign a story point to assign to it, so that based on the capacity of the team we can take those much of story point and can try to deliver that stories. So when I say story, it is not a like a it is a not a commitment like we will be delivering those story, but it is a forecast. Like normally we forecast that this much of story is can be achieved, but there can be multiple reason where a story I have seen that the story point is not achieved because of people getting sick, or like because of some unknown reason, like a person going for a training and something like that. And the next event that happens every day, like it's a 15 minutes event, is the daily scrum or daily stand up. So daily stand up is like an important event which allows us for inspect and adapt. And normally the daily stand up happens at the same place and every time, so that people understand it creates a continuity. That is the reason why it happens in the same place at the same time. And in the daily stand up normally we ask like what happened today, what happened yesterday, and what we are planning to do today, and is there any impediment or blockers. So we discuss these three things in front of the entire team, and the scrum master also will be there to facilitate this event, so that entire team we can able to inspect and adapt using the daily stand up. And the next important event is the sprint review. So sprint review is very critical for a product owner and also for the stakeholders, because whatever we have we have created in the sprint needs to be reviewed by the like the product owner and also the stakeholder. So I have seen many time like the product owner inviting different stakeholder also to the sprint review, so that they can also give their opinion and they can give any feedback, so that to make the product better. So the whole point of sprint review is to like review the product and see whether the product matches the definition of done or not, and also like try to make the product better by giving better opinions or like feedbacks. And the next event in Scrum is sprint retrospective. And so sprint retrospective is a event which is critical because it allows us to inspect the entire the process of the Scrum. So how we followed the entire process of the Scrum, and what are the like how the Scrum like is working. Is it working for the team for betterment, or is it not bettering, or like it's devalued. So entire Scrum process and the Scrum team and the Scrum process is been like inspected in the sprint retrospective. So normally the development team, the scrum master and the product owner, everybody join this sprint retrospective and understand about how can they make the scrum process better, and if there any impediment, how can they remove it. So that is what the importance of the sprint retrospective. Now coming to the three artifacts. So the three main artifacts that Scrum produce is product backlog. So product backlog is like a predefined, it is a predefined set of requirement which has been prioritized by the product owner. So product owner is the sole person of creating this product backlog, and also it is the responsibility of the product owner to prioritize this product backlog according to the according to market expectation, or what is in the higher priority based on the market condition. And then comes the sprint backlog. So sprint backlog is the set of requirement which is ready and which can be taken into the sprint planning, or which can be taken into the next sprint. So sprint backlog is also like it's like more prioritized compared to your product backlog. It is have a we can prioritize based on different techniques. Like we have prioritization technique like Masco technique, which is nothing but must have, should have, could have, wouldn't have, and also Kano prioritization. So using this prioritization technique, we try to prioritize this user story and get it ready for the sprint planning. And then next artifacts is the increment. Increment is nothing but some of the user story which has achieved the definition of done, and it's like a combination of user story that has been got the definition of done achieved, and it can be taken into the production. So it is ready for taking into the production. So this is about the increment. So as you can see the Scrum process in the right hand side, we start with the vision of the Scrum, the product owner along with the Scrum team helps create the vision of the what is going to happen in the next sprint. So the sprint vision, it will start with the sprint vision, and then from sprint vision during the roadmap stage, we divide the vision into first we divide the vision into epics or features, and then epic and feature again get divided into user story, set of user stories that can be picked up. So this user story goes into the product backlog, and from product backlog we select few of the user story, so that becomes the sprint backlog. So using the sprint backlog, it is an input process for the sprint planning. So for the sprint planning to start, we need to have a list of sprint backlog which can be taken into the next sprint. And normally the sprint, as I mentioned, is normally it will be 1 to 4 week of sprint, but now in normal state normally we follow 2 week sprints, what I can say. And there is a daily stand up every day it happens for 15 minutes where we take all the feedback, we do the inspect and adapt, and all those things we do. And then we have the sprint review. Sprint review is done to understand whether the product which you're building is the right product or not. So it will review will be done by both the product owner, also with the stakeholder. And the sprint retrospective, which also used for inspect and adapt the Scrum process, whether the Scrum process we are following is correct or not, and is there any variation we need to do. So that can be done using the sprint retrospective. And finally, the new functionality is developed and given to the market for testing. So this is the entire Scrum process in a nutshell. So moving ahead. So there is another concept which was created in the last century, it is lean. So lean, so what is lean? So basically lean is a management philosophy that is derived from Toyota production system. So in the Toyota's manufacturing company, they come up with this concept philosophy that is called lean, which supports removal of waste. So when I say waste in software terminology, so what waste means? So waste means something that doesn't add value to the product. A thing that doesn't add value to the product is a waste in a software world. So basically, when I say waste, some of the examples are redundant codes. So some of the codes which are written which doesn't add value, and we can like reduce those code into a smaller functionality, so that can be a waste. Or like bureaucratic process, so there can be many process in the software development cycle which doesn't add value, so those also is a kind of waste. So, and also a third example which I can give is a lot of testing. So maybe we are doing a lot of manual testing which is not needed. Maybe we can go for automation or automating the testing using tools like Selenium. So that can also be categorized as a waste. So basically, lean foster a culture of continuous improvement, maximizing value and minimizing the waste. Yeah, we have a question to Pramod. Pramod, you want to ask a question? Okay, we'll take the question in the last 15 minutes because of the shortage of time. So please keep writing the Q&A so that I can able to answer in the last 15 minutes. So moving ahead, the 7 principle of lean software development. As I mentioned in the lean, the most important thing is eliminate waste. So whatever software waste that we are getting, we need to eliminate it to make the process more smooth and to streamline the entire process. And the second thing is amplifying learning. So so lean help us to like we need to amplify learning by having a like code review, or like we can have a culture of like having a knowledge sharing session. So all these things can help us to amplify the learning in a lean process. And the third thing is deciding as late as possible. So basically our implementation should be as late as possible, or we want to create an increment as late as possible, so that we can take all the feedback from the previous state and we can develop the product which is based on the market expectation, and deliver as fast as possible. So when I say deliver as fast as possible, so basically we want to deliver like the product immediately, and we need to encourage the fail fast culture. So when I say fail fast culture, like we want to deliver a small functionality, and we have to get the feedback as soon as possible from the market. And then even if the feedback is bad and the product is failing, that is also okay. But we should encourage the like getting the feedback, and so that we can reiterate and create a better increment next time, and empower the team. So basically the lean help us to empower the entire team. So entire team is empowered to take decision in a lean philosophy, and build integrity in. So we need to create a culture of integrity where whoever is like a tester or developer needs to have a integrity while working in their own deliverables, and so that they can able to deliver on time and see the whole. So instead of working in a like a silos, like working in a like a part of thing, so we have to ensure that the lean is applied into the entire process from the start to the end. So the lean concept should not be like coming into directly in the end. It should it should start from the very beginning, from the requirement phase to the implementation phase. So the lean should be applied in all the life cycle and all the phases. So moving ahead. So the next concept is or the framework which is being used by the software industry is Kanban. So basically the idea of Kanban or the Kanban board was originally used in Japan in production process. So Kanban is a pool-based method for visualizing work. It emphasizes on lean practices. Basically Kanban also takes some of the principle or some of the values from the lean, and it developed from the lean philosophy itself. And also using Kanban, it has important components like feedback loops, simplicity, task focus. So Kanban focuses on these capabilities. So when I say Kanban, it is a Japanese word which means a visual card or signboard. It simply means that a board for visualizing the flow of work. So as you can see in the right hand side, we have a board where we can visualize the entire process from left to right. It is like normally we create it in terms of columns, and where we can put the cards, and we can visualize the entire workflow, so that anybody, so any stakeholder or anybody come outside also can see your work and can see like exactly where we are, where is the bottleneck, and what is pending. So everything can be visualized using the board. So normally we have a physical Kanban board. Also nowadays we have digital board in terms of Jira and other tools. So when it comes to Kanban, there are 5 Kanban property. The first one is visualize the workflow. As I mentioned, visualize the workflow is the one of the most important component of the Kanban. And second is limit the work in progress. So basically, we want to, in terms of Scrum, we can take as many user story as possible, but Kanban doesn't have any time boxing or any kind of sprint. So all the events that we have seen in the Scrum doesn't hold good for Kanban, because we don't follow the Scrum events and all. So basically, to how then we restrict the user story. So to restrict the user story, we limit the work in progress. So for every column, we can create a work WAP limit, so that the team is not overburdened, and team can able to comfortably can able to work and deliver that story on time. And the next thing is measure and manage flow. So everybody in the Kanban team, so we don't have normally a scrum master or anything to manage everything. So here the entire team itself should be able to measure and manage the flow of work from left to right in a Kanban board, and make the process explicit. So we have to make all the rules and everything in the Kanban explicit from the very beginning, so that there is no dichotomy or there is no problem in between. And also Kanban support improvement opportunity. So whenever there is an improvement opportunity or any feedback, so we can include in the Kanban cycle and can develop based on that. So basically now the question will come when we can apply a Scrum framework, where it is best to apply the Kanban framework. Well, as per me, the Scrum framework is can be applied more for a complex project, a complex IT project, or like we are creating mobile based development or all those things, where the sorry, where the requirement is keep on changing. It is where the requirement is a bit complex, what I can say. But Kanban is mostly used in the support or maintenance project, where we can have higher priority, and we can have a user story with a low priority, we can have a user story with high priority. So in those set of scenarios, Kanban is the best approach, because we can tackle the high priority incident, or we can tackle things which are more critical in a better way in the Kanban framework compared to Scrum framework, where we have predefined the objective, everything, and predefined the requirement before. So that is the major difference between Scrum and Kanban framework. So moving ahead. Now, this is a a terminology that I came while working. So it is a Scrumban. So Scrumban is basically a hybrid of Scrum and Kanban. So basically, few people love to work in a Scrum framework, while other enjoyed more working in a Kanban, because Kanban provides them a lot of flexibility, which Scrum doesn't give, because Scrum has a lot of events, ceremonies, and people don't like attending those events or ceremonies, and they find that attending meeting is regressive, and it's not adding value. So for such people, or such organization, where they cannot decide whether they will go for Scrum or Kanban, they go for something called hybrid, a hybrid of Scrum and Kanban. So basically, Scrumban merges the structure and predictability of Scrum with Kanban flexibility and continuous workflow. So we basically add the predictability of Scrum, and we take the Kanban flexibility and create this Scrumban. So Scrumban is basically more helpful for a team that is new to Agile. So basically, a team that come new to Agile, if you give them a Scrum initially, they will be overwhelmed by so many ceremonies and so many things. So because Kanban is also light, so maybe there can be a combination of Scrum and Kanban, which can be used to teach them about before migrating into a more mature framework like Scrum. So basically, the Scrumban is a lightweight framework which can be implemented easily in the IT development area. So how the Scrumban works? So first we develop a Kanban board. So we create a Kanban board and then we set the WAP limit. So for each columns and everything, we create a WAP limit. Then we order the team priority on the board. So all the priority of the team is set on the board itself. And we remove estimation technique like planning poker or anything because we follow the prioritization of work. So in Scrumban, like Kanban, the work needs to be prioritized more compared to the estimation technique. Like it is rather than having planning poker and other estimation technique, it's better to follow the prioritization of work. And also in the Scrumban, we follow the daily stand-up. So because in Kanban we don't have ceremonies and all, but in Scrumban we can have a daily stand-up where we discuss the three things what we discuss in the Scrum framework. So basically we are combining the good feature of Scrum here and the better feature of Kanban and created this framework called Scrumban, which is being used like I have seen in multiple places and multiple organizations. I can see is getting used. So moving ahead. So this is another concept that is very close to my heart, that is design thinking. So what is design thinking? Well, design thinking is a process for solving a problem by prioritizing the customer need above everything. So when you say design thinking, we focus mostly on the customer needs, or we keep the customer in the front, and then only we go about developing the software process. So instead of creating a product in the market and launching it to the customer, we take the customer's priority and then understand their user problems or user needs, understand using techniques like empathy, and we do a user research to find out what exactly the customer need, and based on our inputs which we get from the customer, we create a product. So that is the whole concept of design thinking. So as I mentioned, design thinking is following a human-centered approach while dealing with any problem. So we need to have a human-centric approach for design thinking. And design thinking can be categorized into 5 stages. So the first one is empathize. So when I say empathize, it's like basically we need to go toward our customer. We need to approach our customer and do a user research. And so when I say user research, it can be of interview, it can be survey, or it can be a normal observation from the customer. So to understand the customer in detail and understand from customer from the very close, so that we can understand the requirement and where is their pain point and where is the need. And once we gather all the requirement from the customer and the pain points, we can then define. The next stage is define. So define is like we are defining the problem statement. So based on the user research which we have done, we define a problem statement which we try to solve. And the next phase is ideate. Well, ideate is nothing but it's like a brainstorming session. So we try to get as many ideas possible. So we invite a lot of people so that we can get as many ideas as possible for the problem statement which we have defined in the earlier phase. And once we get all the ideas, we try to create a prototype. So prototype is a phase where we create an initial mock-up or a design which can be shown to the customer and get a feedback. So basically all this, whatever the idea we have generated from the previous stage, we create a mock-up for those, and we try to get a feedback from the customer. And finally, we test that entire thing, like which we have developed. We try to test with the end customer and get the feedback. So these are the 5 stages that we have in the design thinking. And design thinking is non-linear in the sense like it doesn't go from one phase to another, but we can go from basically from ideate, we can go to prototype. Again, from prototype, we can again come back to ideate. So it is like non-linear, like there is no phase-wise thing that happens in design thinking. So moving ahead. So next thing, which is very much important in IT industry nowadays, is Devops. So what is DevOps? Some people say DevOps is tools. Some people mention DevOps as practices, or it's automation thing. So there are a lot of if you ask 10% about DevOps, they will give 10 different answers, because that is what we don't have a general definition of DevOps as such. So what I can gather is that DevOps is a set of practices, tools, and a cultural philosophy that automate and integrate the process between software development and IT teams. So basically, DevOps is a cultural change. It's also like a mindset change, where we bring the work which is done by the developer and the operation together, so that there is no silos between the developer and the operation team, and both can together work for the betterment of the project. So ultimate aim of the any project is to deliver the product successfully on time, and which is being used by the customer. And so DevOps is the one which removes the silos from both the development team and the operation team, and make them to work together as a team. So what are the benefits of DevOps? So some of the benefits are it reduces the time to market, and it also provides us competitive advantages. So nowadays, DevOps is being used by multiple big organizations like Netflix, Amazon. They use DevOps very strictly in their software development process. So moving ahead. So how to implement DevOps in Agile environment? Is DevOps and Agile are completely different thing altogether? Or like, is there any link between DevOps and Agile? Well, what I can say is DevOps is a subset of Agile. Basically, this DevOps culture has started in the year 2009. So before that, we don't had a concept of DevOps. Earlier, we used to developer we used to like code and send their codes to the operation team, and operation team try to deploy it into various environment, like test environment or production environment. So they used to work in silos. But after 2009, when this DevOps concept came, like everything changed. So DevOps focused on development of short sprint, and it also enhanced automation. And so DevOps actually helps like create a culture for automation. Like we can see whether we are doing any manual work and whether we can automate the thing. Either we can automate the development cycle, or we can automate the testing. Probably we can do a unit testing, or we can or automate the entire integration process. So there are a lot of things that can be automated, and DevOps create the culture for automation. Also, DevOps enhance the chance of building better, reliable software that can be deliver fast to the market. So DevOps also helps us to create this fail fast culture. So with the DevOps, we can do a fail fast culture, and we can take feedback immediately from the market and build on top of it. So the most benefit of the Agile DevOps can be used in the large scale enterprise projects. So basically in the bigger project, where it's difficult to handle both the development team and the operation team, and they work in silos. So and where we need multiple releases, and because of the market condition changing, we need releases frequently. There we can see the main benefit of DevOps. Sorry. So DevOps culture include below capability. So the one of the main capabilities collaboration. As I told, DevOps is helps in collaborating both the developer and the operation team. So both the team can work together to build a software product that is reliable and that is scalable. The next thing is automation. So DevOps actually helps us in automation. Like we try to automate everything, like from the development cycle, we can develop the unit cases. Like in case instead of developer sending the code to the directly to the tester to test it, the developer nowadays can create the unit test cases and can test it. And also there are different tools to test it during the code merging stage. So for the code merging, we use Git, and also for like sending a code from one pipeline to another pipeline, we have multiple tools. So and for testing also, instead of doing manual testing, like people have started using Selenium and other tools. So basically, we can do a lot of automation using this DevOps culture. And DevOps, as I mentioned, is like continuous integration. So once you develop the code, instead of like waiting for like 1 month or like 6 months to like integrate into the main branch. We DevOps helps to integrate the code like in a single day multiple times to the main branch, so that we can integrate the code and we can see if any error comes or not. So that so basically DevOps allows for multiple integration to the main branch. Continuous delivery. So we can also, after integrating the code, we can deliver to the multiple environment. Like multiple environments are there where we can deliver this using the DevOps tools. And continuous testing. So also DevOps help us to do a continuous testing in terms of like a lot of pipelines are created where we can do testing of whatever code we have written, and the multiple code are written in the multiple branches. Once it is merged into the single branch, then we can run different commands to test all those things, and it can give us the whether our test cases are failed or passed. So it can give us all the input. And finally, when the product is implemented, there is a continuous monitoring that is done using a different tools. There are we can monitor the like a continuous monitor whether our software product or increment which we have developed is working correctly or not, or are we getting any errors. So everything can be monitored using the software in the continuous monitoring capability of DevOps. So moving ahead. So finally, so we have learned all these things. Today we learned about, I've given a general definition. So I have not gone into detail, but I've just given a brief introduction about all this concept. Agile, in Agile, we have learned about frameworks like Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban, and also I discuss about few things about Lean. So what is Lean, and how Lean helps in the software development life cycle. Also, I touched based on design thinking, how the design thinking is the new culture. It has created new culture, and how it changed our mindset, and how can we get we can focus on like user first. So using design thinking, we focus on the customer first. And then finally, we have seen DevOps, how DevOps is helping the IT sector, and how we are like combining both the capability of the developer and the operation team, and creating better products using DevOps culture. So there is a question that came into my mind. Can you connect all this philosophy or the concept, and whether it's possible to create a software using all this concept together? So yes, as you can see in the figure in the right hand side. So basically we can start with the design thinking. So basically what is design thinking? It's about finding the user problem and coming up with better ideas. So we can start up with the design thinking, where we can do a user research to get as much of user expectation in terms of user needs or user problem. We can understand them very closely and can get all the requirements. So once we got the design thinking done, the next step is next progression is of course Agile, where Agile we can take the user problem, everything, and combine with the business and IT, and we can use various methods and frameworks. We can use methods like a framework like a Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban, or for scaling Agile. Like if you want to develop Agile into multiple teams, we can use Safe, Less, and other frameworks. So using Agile, we can like whatever requirement we got from the design thinking, we can try to building the product itself. And the next stage is DevOps. So basically, in terms of creating the correct product, or how the product will look like, DevOps will come into picture. So basically, we create the IT product by combining both the development and operation together, and you will use the various tools and processes in the DevOps culture. So basically, once the product is created, and lastly, we can implement Lean. So Lean is about, as I mentioned, removal of any waste. So we try to analyze the entire process and see whether there is any waste which can be removed, or any waste that is not adding value to our product. So those things we can remove, and we can reiterate the entire process. So that doesn't mean that Lean will come in the last phase. We can apply Lean in the multiple phases, like in the entire Agile flow lifecycle, which I defined here. We can try to implement Lean in multiple phases, so that any kind of waste that is created, maybe during the design thinking, we come up with a lot of documentation which are not needed, and that is hindering our software development process. So maybe we can remove some of the documentation which are not needed and which is not fruitful for our software development phase. Similarly, in the development phase, any redundant code or any functionality that is can be sorted out, or we can write the code efficiently. So those redundant code can be removed using the lean philosophy. So, and also in the testing phase, if you are doing any kind of manual testing, where is a chance for automation? So those things can be we can apply automation and can follow the lean principle. So this is the way I come up with this agile flow cycle, where we can apply all these things together, and hopefully we'll try to get we develop a fail fast culture and get the feedback, and keep on reiterating. So it is not like a linear process. We can it is a non-linear process where we get the all the requirement and can reiterate and try to get the feedback again, and the cycle continues. So that is all about my session. So thanks a lot for attending the session, and hope everybody has gained few knowledge or few insight out of it. And I'm now open for any questions, Q&A. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you so much, Vismoy, and it was a really wonderful session, right? We learned a lot, Agile, Lean, Scrum, Kanban, and how they all come together with accommodating design thinking as well, right? So it was really wonderful, and I think we can now look at the questions. There are some questions in the Q&A box, so we can start answering them. So there are multiple questions, so I think we won't be able to answer each and every questions. So I'll just pick out some questions that I think are common, and we can then discuss on those questions, right?
Yes.
So first question that we'll talk about is from Seema, right? So Seema asked that how is retrospective different from a sprint review, right? So we mentioned that there's a retrospective and then there's some other concept called sprint review. What is the difference between both of these concepts, if you have to explain in very brief?
Yeah. So in briefly, what I can explain is the sprint review and sprint retrospective are different Scrum events or ceremonies. So in the sprint review, we actually inspect the product which are building, or the increment of the product which you're building. So we in the sprint review, normally the product owner and the stakeholder is involved, and they review the product which we are building. On the other hand, in retrospective, we are not inspecting the product, but we are inspecting the Scrum process which we followed. Is there any problem with our Scrum process? Is there our stand-up is expanding, like going above 15 minutes? So the entire all the Scrum events and ceremony, have we followed it correctly or not? And how is the team comfortable with the estimation technique, or how is the team comfortable with the Scrum events? So all these things are discussed in the sprint retrospective, where the Scrum process is being inspected, and normally the stakeholder is not involved in the sprint retrospective. Only the product owner, development team, and the Scrum master is involved. But in the sprint review, the stakeholder also can come and join along with the product owner to give the feedback about the product. So these are the fundamental difference between both those ceremonies.
Okay, understood. So apart from that, we have a question from Raghav, and I personally have that question as well, right? So when we read about Scrum, or when we understand Scrum from theory point of view, right, it seems that it is a very systematic process, and everything flows in a very systematic way, and there's no chance of failure, right? But you said that you've worked with Scrum for the past 6 or 7 years, right? Now, when you're actually on the ground level, how implementable and what are the problems that you face while using Scrums, that are some problems that everyone should be aware about so that they can solve it? And how do you solve these problems when they come across when you're implementing Scrum?
Okay, so thanks a lot, Raghav. That is a very good question. So yes, so in my previous when I involved in the Scrum framework also, like I have seen especially when there is a new team that is formed, who has no experience of Scrum, and like people who have come from waterfall, or the entire client is also like not has come up with the Scrum process and have been following waterfall. For them to like suddenly go into the Scrum environment is very difficult. So a lot of training is needed and a lot of hand holding is needed. So the team needs to be coached, even the client needs to be coached about the Scrum and what values the Scrum will create for them. So ultimately it creates a value for them. That's why they need to adopt this Scrum framework. If you don't highlight those value, they will not able to adapt to this Scrum framework. So the main challenges were when the new team has formed, first to teach them about Scrum values and why Scrum is important, and how can we get a really good product using the Scrum compared to waterfall. And when we are like working in the Scrum, so I've seen like there are like a certain lifetime example which I can give, real life example. Like basically the product owner might not be aware like about the Scrum thing, and he might try to introduce more features in between of the sprint, telling that as I am the ultimate owner of the product, I can introduce as many feature based on the based on my need. But at that time, the Scrum Master tried to pitch in and tried to stop the product owner from introducing a new requirement in middle of the sprint. Because what I have seen, what a problem happens is that if new requirement keep on added in the current sprint, then the sprint value will be lost. In the sense, like the team will not able to achieve the sprint goal, and all the story will not be like completed. So it might happen like some of the stories might be overlapped or taken into the next sprint. So that creates a disharmony in the development team. So to avoid that, what happens is the Scrum Master and like business analyst discuss with the like development team whether they can like we can take this new user story or not in between of the sprint, and whether it hampers the sprint progress or not. So in case it hampering the sprint progress, then we have many time like I have to tell no to the product owner. As a business analyst, also no, we cannot take these stories in the current sprint because it hampers the sprint progress, and team will ultimately the team will not be happy because whatever they have developed they're in between of the sprint, and they deliver something, they are going to deliver this like the deliverables or the increment, but they cannot complete because of this new user story. So their mindset and their it creates a disharmony in the team. So these are the certain like situation I faced when implementing Scrum in the real life environment.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really great to know what are the problems that happen on the real ground level when you're actually dealing with Scrum. Now, with this, we have a question from Bhakti, and the question is that there is Lean and there is Scrum, right? So, what are the benefits of Lean over Scrum, or vice versa, Scrum over Lean, or how do you basically decide which model do you want to go forward with, right? So, is there a certain criteria for that?
Yes. So basically, lean is created on the manufacturing industry, and it is used to eliminate the waste. So basically, some Scrum is mostly used when we are building like complex or unknown problems. When we are tackling with a complex unknown problem where we want to deliver the project in within certain period, and we want to get feedback as soon as possible, then we can use Scrum. But when it comes to lean, it is better to use the lean in like a project which is more stable, but where we can see a lot of waste that is getting generated. Waste, in as I mentioned, in terms of like a redundant code being written, or there are a lot of dependency there, or a lot of bureaucratic processes are there which can be removed. So in those scenario, in this project, the lean is the best approach. So that's what I can say the differentiation is.
Okay, understood. Great. Thank you so much for explaining. And now we are just about time. So we'll take one final question, right? So there's a question from Abhishek, and he wants to ask that what kind of tools do you personally use for Kanban, Scrum, or Scrumban that you personally use in your organization, or that you have used in past, or the ones that you feel are the most efficient and effective one?
Yeah, for the framework like Kanban, Scrum, or Scrumban. So the most important like the tools which I have used is Jira and Confluence. So Jira for like creating the Scrum board or the Kanban board, and also creating user story, and everything can be done in Jira tool. And for documentation purpose and all, like we have the Confluence also. Like in case of like I have seen in multiple scenario where the client is still not happy with the agile way of working, and they are still prefer the waterfall way of working. So we need to have a fine balance, or we need to have a hybrid of both. So in that scenario, like we can create a user story in in Jira board, and also we can describe the user story, everything in there, like a Confluence. Like in a Confluence we can like the specification document or functional document, everything we can create using Confluence. So I've used Jira and Confluence like tools for implementing Kanban, Scrum, and Scrumban.
Okay, thank you so much, Bismoy. So with this, we are at time and we will wrap up the session. Thank you so much for coming on stage and giving us this important knowledge about Scrum, Kanban, Agile, Lean, DevOps, design thinking, and the most importantly, how do you inculcate and accommodate all of them together into a complete systematic process that everyone can use in their day-to-day lives. So thank you so much for coming. And this was the first session of Product Management Speaker Summit 2022. And indeed, it was a really great session. So thank you so much, Bismoy. And I would request every participant in the chat to thanks Bismoy for coming on the session and giving us such insightful knowledge, right? So thank you so much, Bismoy. And over to you. You can read the chat and you can communicate with the fellow peers if you have something to communicate.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gaurav, and I will also thanks the Insaid for providing this opportunity to share my knowledge, and hope and also I would like to any feedback or anything. I'm definitely welcome because this is a learning phase. Even I am also learning new things, and every day is like learning something new, and hope to continue with my learning journey. So thanks a lot again for providing this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Okay. So bye everyone and take care. And for the ones who have classes on 11 a.m., your classes will start at 11:30, right? So please join your respective classes. And looking forward now, the next session of Product Management Speaker Summit we'll have in February. So the speakers who will be shortlisted for that will be reached out soon, right? So be ready and looking forward to having you in the second session as well. So take care and have your wonderful Sunday. Bye.